Good morning to you, YouTube family. A couple years ago, one of my good friends and I were faced with a massive problem we couldn't solve. And in his wisdom, he said, at this point, we need to stop and ask ourselves, what would an extraordinary person do in this situation? And this resonated with me the whole weekend. And I realized that of all the YouTube viewers who could be staring at that screen right now in those shoes, you are that extraordinary person. And you have a team of what I call Texas fan juggernauts. That is not only my opinion, this is a fact. I don't think anyone can dispute this. So my question, as we write, the Sarkisian era story, right? We're not even done with the first chapter yet. Can you unfold some of the onion of what you are working on? How do you solve this problem? I realize that you might not even know, but I want to steal from Julian Edelman. It's going to be one hell of a story. That is a slightly modified for YouTube version of a real legitimate question that was posed to Steve Sarkisian yesterday at his Monday game week press conference. What's up, guys? BK, Brad Kellner. Today is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. Hope everyone's having a great start to the week. Hope everyone is recovering. I don't think anybody's fully recovered from what took place at DKR Texas Memorial Stadium on Saturday, but I hope everyone is crawling out of that dark place as we are still hurting as a Longhorn nation. Today's video is going to be recapping what Steve Sarkisian had to say at his game week press conference. He, of course, talked about the loss to Kansas from last weekend and started to look ahead to this weekend's tilt in Morgantown against West Virginia. Both teams 4-6 going into Saturday. Everybody knows the Longhorns need to win these final two games to become bowl eligible. Texas, an early 2 to 2.5 point underdog. At least that was the line that I saw yesterday for this 11 a.m. matchup. Yeah, we're back to 11 a.m. kickoffs. 11 a.m. Yes, West Virginia currently a 2.5 point favorite at the time of me recording this on Tuesday. But let's talk Steve Sarkisian. And man, what a question that was. That was the first question Sark got yesterday. I can't believe he let the reporter finish that entire question. I can't believe Sark didn't butt in there and just cut him off. And I also can't believe that Steve Sarkisian didn't laugh hysterically after that question finally came to an end. That's not even a question. That was like a full story that guy told. And it was unbelievable. And it went viral. And once again, Texas football is in the news for all the wrong reasons and some of the most ridiculous reasons. I mean, think about what has gone down with this program within the last couple of weeks, from the pole assassin story to the Joshua Moore story to the Bo Davis video that went viral, to obviously what happened on the field Saturday against Kansas, to now this. I mean, Texas is just in the news every single day, and it's unbelievable. I mean, the jokes write themselves for this program. What an absurd question. To call that a bad question is an insult to every bad question that's ever been asked. I just wanted to give that guy the Billy Madison today junior treatments. But of course, I was not in the press room when that went down. But that was wild. Some of the other stuff Steve Sarkisian had to say, some good, mainly bad. The real bad, Bijan Robinson done for the season, dislocated his elbow in the loss to Kansas. He's out the rest of the way. Even if he was somehow available to go these last couple of games, there's just no point. So agree with that decision. A bummer that Bijan's not going to be a part of things. Love watching the guy play. He's obviously the best player on this team. He gives Texas the best chance to win these next two games and become bowl eligible, and not having him is going to suck. I know his production has dipped a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but look, there's no doubt he's the best player on this team. So that's going to make things a little bit tougher for Texas, and well, they already are pretty damn tough for this Texas football team right now. So no Bijan Robinson. Steve Sarkisian talked about Bijan coming back next year, and Sark said he expects Bijan to have a tremendous, extraordinary, some might say, season in 2022. I hope and pray that that's the case. Like, there's a part of me that thinks Bijan Robinson doesn't need to play another snap of college football, and he'll still be a very high draft pick in the NFL next year's NFL draft. I don't think that's the case. I haven't heard anybody talk about that. I don't think Bijan's the type of player to do that, but I feel like that guy's put enough on film over his first couple of years in Austin to where everybody knows he's legit, and NFL scouts already have him on his radar. And I still think the guy would be drafted pretty high, like the first 2 days of the 2023 NFL draft, if he decided to sit out next season and just prepare for the NFL draft. I'm going to knock on wood as a Texas grad and Texas fan that doesn't happen And I'm sorry to be negative because there's too much negativity going on surrounding this program right now. But a random thought that I had, and I hope it's not true. Hopefully Bijan is back next season, but obviously a bummer that we won't get to watch him the rest of the way. Some good news, Bijan Robinson is expected to return. He's been dealing with COVID. Steve Sarkisian said yesterday Bijan Robinson should be good to go this Saturday against West Virginia. So it'd be nice to have him back, another weapon for this offense. And obviously you need running back bodies now that you won't have Bijan the rest of the way. Some other potentially good news in regards to this weekend's game against West Virginia. Sark said that there's a chance that Jordan Whittington could be available. Would love that. Receiver play outside of Xavier Worthy has been a problem this season. It's been a problem the last couple of seasons in Austin. We all know how this passing game has kind of fallen off a cliff since Whittington got hurt against Oklahoma. Would love to have him opposite of Xavier Worthy to help this passing offense a little bit. Casey Thompson's going to get the start against West Virginia. No surprise there. There's a lot to nitpick and gripe about from what took place against Kansas last weekend. Casey Thompson's play, not really one of those things. I knew he had a bad interception in the first half, but 6 touchdowns. He was spectacular in the second half and gave Texas a chance to win that football game. So no-brainer. Hudson Card did not look good, threw a horrible pick 6 in the first half. He continues to look rattled. The moment appears to be too big for him at this point in his college career. No-brainer that Casey Thompson is going to get the start this Saturday in Morgantown. And Sark was asked about the quarterback rotation that he had against the Jayhawks last weekend. And Sark clarified that he did not bench Casey Thompson. That was the plan going in. And Sark said that last week. He said the plan going in was to play both Casey Thompson and Hudson Card. I thought it was a little bit interesting that Casey Thompson led a touchdown drive, and then on the next series, Hudson Card was in at quarterback. But according to Sark, that was the plan. And unfortunately, Hudson Card had a couple of turnovers. Obviously mentioned the pick 6, that one being the most egregious. And then Sark went with Casey Thompson the rest of the way. I want to ask you guys a question towards the end of this video regarding Casey Thompson and the quarterback position for Texas moving forward. I really want to get y'all's thoughts on this because I've been back and forth. Some of the other things that Sark talked about, look, he talked about where the program is right now, and he was asked about the job and whether he knew it would be this difficult. And, he gave all of the right answers, I guess. I mean, it's some of these questions feel impossible to answer right now. And I get that some of you guys are probably ticked with some of the things that Steve Sarkisian is having to say at these press conferences right now, but I just don't know if there's anything that he could say that would make fans happy. Like all fans care about, all I really care about is what goes on the field. And is this team winning football games? And they're not doing that. Lost 5 in a row for the first time since 1956. They are staring at an 8-loss season for the first time since 1956. By the way, that was the year before DKR was hired at Texas. Steve Sarkisian, I'm trying to find the exact quote, guys. Clearly, I'm filibustering here. Also, my hair looks ridiculous. I've got the little Jimmy Neutron quaff thing going on today. It's time for a haircut, I think. Getting very sidetracked here. Sark talked about one of the things that went viral. This is not what I was going to go to next, but I think it's worth talking about. Steve Sarkisian talked about potentially having 33 new scholarship players next season. And that quote kind of went viral, and a lot of Longhorn fans were excited to hear that because that sounds like a lot of roster turnover. And it is, but it's not like super egregious. Like 33 new scholarship players is a recruiting class of 25 and 8 transfer portal players, which it's more than normal, but it's not like you're completely turning over the entire roster. It doesn't necessarily insinuate that Sark's going to kick off 15 dudes from the team, and it's just going to be a bunch of new faces next year in Austin. Maybe that will happen. But like the 33 new scholarship players, like that's more of an attention grabber than an actual story for me, more of a headline than a storyline, if you will, for Texas football. Obviously, I'm curious to see what happens this offseason with coaching turnover and with player turnover as well. Speaking of coaching turnover, Steve Sarkisian was asked if anybody at the administrative level at UT had told him that he has to make changes to his coaching staff. And Sark said no. And he said, these guys didn't forget how to coach overnight. They've been doing it at this level for a very, very long time. I agree with that. Like, my guess is those conversations haven't happened now. But if Texas loses these last 2 games, guys, and the Longhorns go 4-8, Sark's not going to be allowed to bring back his entire staff in year 2. He just won't be. I'll eat my words if I'm wrong. And I get it. Like, coaching turnover is part of the problem that this program has dealt with for the last 12 years. I don't want to fire people just to fire people. and having continuity amongst the coaching staff feels necessary at this point. Like maybe we should try that instead of trying to fire everybody every year. But I just don't think the shot callers in Austin are going to stand for 4-8 and just say, we can run that back. Everybody can be back, and that's okay. We'll give everyone else a chance to turn this around next year. Sark's not going anywhere, obviously, but some of the position coaches, maybe PK's job is up for grabs at this point too. Who knows? The entire coaching staff is not going to be brought back next year, guys. Once again, I will eat my words if I'm wrong, but with what I know about Texas from my time covering Texas and my time being a fan of Texas, I just can't imagine no changes are going to be made, especially if this team goes 4-8. Look, if they win the last 2 games and get to a bowl game and win that bowl game, maybe Sark has a leg to stand on. Maybe he can convince people, and CDC can convince people to keep the staff intact and run it back for year 2. But if this team doesn't make a bowl game, and especially if they lose these final 2 and end the year on a 7-game losing streak, he's just not going to get that privilege, guys. He is not going to be allowed to have the entire coaching staff back in 2022. Another thing that Sark talked about, we'll wrap things up here in a couple of minutes. Appreciate you guys watching. By the way, please like this video if you haven't yet. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. Talking all things Texas sports on here all of the time. Texas football, Texas basketball, Texas baseball, and any other happenings on the 40 acres. Another quick shout out to the women's basketball team. Nice win at Stanford on Sunday, beating the defending champs in their house. Very, very impressive. The women's sports, they always have our back. They always get it done. They carry the university. At least they have been doing that as of late. Sark talked about the lines of scrimmage. If you've been subscribed to this channel, if you followed my radio career in Austin and or in Houston, you know how much of an emphasis I put on the lines of scrimmage. You can't win at any level of football if you don't win the battle in the trenches. Texas got manhandled by Kansas on Saturday. That's unbelievably embarrassing, especially the D-line. Bo Davis's group. I was hoping if any group had a bounce back on Saturday after the disaster that took place against Iowa State, I was hoping it'd be the D-line because, well, we were expected them to be the strength of this football team going into the year, but also because, their position coach was the guy who went viral for just crapping on the team and calling everybody out. What did the defensive line do? Well, they got worked by Kansas. They gave up more than 200 rushing yards to KU, and they let a backup quarterback have enough time to carve the secondary. It was a total collapse by the Texas defense. It doesn't all fall on the defensive line, but they were not good. And Sark talked about that in his press conference. Like, we have to bolster our offensive and defensive lines to get where we need to get. And Sark followed up by basically saying that it's a common theme of college football playoff contending teams to have really good fronts. And that's true. Once again, you can't win at any level in football if you can't win in the trenches. And Texas hasn't been winning in the trenches for a long time, but it's been clear and obvious that we haven't seen that this year. Josh Thompson also out for the season, fibula fracture. Jonathan Brooks is out. Sark said he hopes that he'll be back before the end of the season. We'll see. There might only be 2 games left, right? This Saturday and the next Friday. That's the regular season finale against K-State in Austin. I don't feel confident in either of those games. So those are my big takeaways, or I guess the big takeaways from Steve Sarkisian's press conference yesterday. The question I wanted to ask you guys before we get out of here, and I've been back and forth on this. I've been having like internal debate with myself, and I've talked to, that sounds kind of weird. I've talked to some of my UT grad friends as well and asked them this question, and I want to pose this to you guys. Casey Thompson played really well against Kansas on Saturday, but he's had a very up and down year as a first-year starter in Austin. Maybe you can attribute some of that to the thumb injury that he's been dealing with for a while, or just maybe he's not that good. And the growing pains of being a first-year starter in a new offense were too much for him to overcome. My question to you guys is, would you rather see Casey Thompson play really well over these final 2 regular season games and maybe a bowl game? Feels ridiculous to even say that at this point. And like give you, and maybe more importantly, give Steve Sarkisian and this coaching staff confidence that he can be your QB1 in 2022? Or would you rather Casey Thompson maybe struggle a little bit down the stretch to where Sark feels like he needs to address the quarterback position this offseason? I know he's got Malik Murphy committed. I know he plans on signing another quarterback in this recruiting class, but I don't think it's fair to expect either of those guys as incoming true freshmen to be week 1 starters next season. I don't think you want that if you're Texas, especially with Alabama in the non-con. Jesus. What would you rather see? Would you rather see Casey Thompson like play really well and it's like, all right, like we'll roll with this guy next year? Or would you rather see Steve Sarkisian attack the transfer portal this offseason and bring in another quarterback to at least compete with Casey Thompson and Hudson Card this coming offseason to see who gets to be QB1 in 2022? And maybe you can say both. That feels like a cop-out. Like you could say you want Casey Thompson to play well, but you also want Sark to go after a quarterback this offseason. I guess the crux of the question is, do you want to see Steve Sarkisian attack the portal and bring in a quarterback who can play immediately in 2022? Quinn Ewers' name has already been spitballed by Texas fans. He's at Ohio State right now. Everybody knows about Quinn Ewers, played his high school ball at South Lake Carroll, was considering Texas for a long time, ultimately reclassified and signed with the Buckeyes. Loaded QB room in Columbus. CJ Stroud's got another year at least, maybe 2. I can't remember. I think he's a sophomore, so just 1. But there's also like 2 other really highly touted freshmen in that QB room in Columbus. So Quinn Ewers maybe just wants to play right away, and maybe he'd have the chance to do that at Texas. So whether it's Ewers or somebody else, what do you want to see Sark do in the offseason to address the quarterback position? Or are you comfortable rolling with the same 2? And, of course, Charles Wright going into next season. Comment below with your thoughts. Comment below with any future video ideas, whatever you guys want to ask me, whatever's on y'all's mind. Always love hearing from you guys. Appreciate the continued love and support. Please like this video one more time if you haven't yet. I think you can only like it once, so if you already have, you're good. And subscribe to this channel and tell a friend too. Talking all things Texas sports right here on the YouTubes. And shout out to today's video sponsor, Last Stand Hats. You've seen the discount code scrolling across the bottom of your screen. BK10. Type that in at checkout. You're going to get 10% off your purchase of any Last Stand hats. They're also dropping some golf polos over there at laststandhats.com. They're pretty sick. So definitely check those out. The holiday season right around the corner. Perfect gift for the UT fan or the golfer in your life over at Last Stand Hats. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. We'll do another video talking football, maybe some Texas basketball talk as well later this week. Quick plug for myself, The Wheelhouse, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 in Houston. I'm on every weekday from 3 to 7 p.m. You can listen online, ESPN975.com. Thank you guys for the continued love and support. Until next time, y'all stay safe, y'all stay healthy, and hook 'em.